All right, I am George, and I am joined here by my good friend, Donnie Johnson, who has his own YouTube channel, Don John, Donjohn. Also, Facebook.com, Don John, Donjohn, and at Twitter, at DonJohn1991. Please welcome my good friend, Don Johnson.
Thank you for having me. It is absolutely wonderful to be here.
Awesome. I'll tell you the reason we're here today. You may have noticed from my Ghetto Town version of that song. Kind of a last minute thing. There's so many people out there saying spoiler-free review, and this and that. And we thought, you know what, how about a discussion of the anticipation of this movie? Because we haven't seen it yet, so it's impossible for us to pop up a spoiler. And I know by this time tomorrow, for sure, would your review be up?
Yes.
Your official spoiler-free review?
Hopefully like late tonight, like maybe around midnight, maybe a little later, but definitely by tomorrow.
Cool. All right. So, again, I'm sure we'll touch on it again, guys, but you'll want to check that out at YouTube. The YouTube channel, it's Don John, Donjohn. You've been reviewing movies for a while, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, a few years now.
Cool. What's some of the other flicks you've covered?
Honestly, I do a lot of different movies. My most recent season, I did what I called the Season of Superheroes. Did just the best, worst, and most divisive superhero movies. Just because with the way the genre just keeps blowing up, and we've pretty much been told we're going to get superhero movies forever,
right? Yeah,
as long as movies are a thing.
Yeah.
So I figured it'd be fun to do that. Next season, I got a bunch of different genres, mostly movies I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to season 3 of my YouTube movie review show, which is called Hails and Fails.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, especially too if you're talking about a whole season of just covering superhero movies, I would think that anybody that's a regular listener would start to get into the zone of how you approach these movies,
right?
And so it's like, okay, I know how Donnie thinks about this stuff. I'm interested to hear what he thinks about this based on previous, listens.
Right.
That's cool. So it's going pretty well for you, the channel and everything.
Oh yeah, it's a work in progress. I need to start uploading more regularly. I always end up taking longer breaks than I mean to, especially with just buying a house recently.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Well, I tell you what, man, let's jump into it. Last Jedi, we're going to see it tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to see it at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
You've seen it in 3D.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go at 10:20, so you'll know all the secrets before I do. But tell me, first of all, I guess, what have you heard? I mean, what do you think the good signs are that this movie is going to be solid?
Well, the biggest sign that I've seen that this movie is going to be great is the fact that the director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson, we got a press release maybe like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Mm-hmm. Disney has said that Rian Johnson, director of The Last Jedi, is going to be the director of the entire next trilogy after Episode 9.
Nice.
So the fact that Disney is willing to give this guy complete control over the next trilogy, he did something right.
Right.
Disney saw something that they went, this guy, give him a paycheck.
And when did this announcement get made, roughly?
Maybe a month ago.
Okay, so
it's pretty recent.
Would you say it would probably fall in line with around the time they saw the finished product of this film?
Oh yeah. It's just that among just sort of how Disney is their approach to promoting this movie. Because with promoting The Force Awakens, it was the easy, like obvious nostalgia, like the first Star Wars movie in 10 years. Yeah. The first one, it takes place after The Last Jedi, so, by some people's standards, the first movie in 30 years.
Right.
So that was the easy approach. With this one, it feels more like Disney is that friend who's excited to show you their favorite movie. And that just makes me more excited to see it.
Yeah, and what a genius move by a multi-billion-dollar corporation with no soul for them to make us believe that they're our friend.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all shooting for that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, what do you think about the runtime? 2 hours and 40 minutes. Longest Star Wars movie ever.
It's, when it comes, there's a lot of people who say, I'm going to quote Roger Ebert on this. I hope I don't skew this quote. A good movie isn't long enough, and a bad movie is never too short.
Right.
A lot of people feel that there's a quote-unquote time limit when it comes to films. Me personally, I don't believe there's a time limit as long as your story necessitates that amount of time, as long as you can hold attention for that length of time. Then there theoretically is no time limit. I'm the Stephen Hawking of movies.
Yeah. Well, and you just mentioned here just a little bit ago before we started taping, and that was The Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, those movies, I wouldn't cut
Over
a frame
3
out of
hours.
either one of those movies.
Yeah.
And I can see from the standpoint of promoting a movie, sometimes you have to figure out ways to market it. Like a classic example being Kill Bill.
Right.
I mean, I thought that was epic, and I love the whole thing, but I can see why they had to
Right.
not release a 10 or a 6-hour movie.
Or, I know you've never seen it, but Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the last Harry Potter book, they cut it into 2 movies. And as someone who is a big fan of Harry Potter and has read all the books and watched all the movies, splitting that book into 2 parts was definitely a good move.
Yeah.
The way the book is fleshed out and everything. So, again, it comes down to what does your story necessitate
Right.
and whether or not you can make it work. When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, yeah.
So this Star Wars being 2 hours, 45 minutes long, from what I'm hearing, it's worth it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting the thing you pointed out there regarding how it was easier to maybe promote the first one because you have the nostalgia.
Right.
It's like you see that clip of the Millennium Falcon, or
Right.
you see Harrison Ford
It's
with
like,
Chewbacca.
you could have told me this movie was a giant turd. I still would have gone see it just to
Right.
see if it was a giant turd.
Right, and that trailer, I mean, when it shows, Han Solo and Chewbacca there, I mean, or you see the Millennium Falcon,
Right.
it's like, that's all you really need.
Right.
You guys may notice that sound in the background is my cat clawing the hell out of a box. Because we don't settle for anything except complete and total professionalism here at Calling All Heroes Comics on this little sidebar podcast that we do from time to time. Anyway, I don't even know. But I guess what I was going to say was that trailer, like you said, it really, really
Right.
lend itself to the nostalgia.
It hit all the right chords.
Yeah, with this, you don't have that as much.
Right.
I mean, you see these little clips, but every commercial I've seen, it all seems very Empire-like in the sense it's all very down. It's all
I think it's going to be just like how The Force Awakens wasn't necessarily a lot of people make the joke that The Force Awakens is a remake of A New Hope. I think it's a remake of the tone of A New Hope, and I think this will be like sort of a throwback to the tone of Empire, but I think it's still going to very much be its own thing.
Right.
And you also have to kind of keep in mind the theme of Star Wars is that it's a cycle.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to throw some questions at you, and you tell me what just give me your honest opinion here. And again,
Okay.
we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen any spoilers for the movie, so I just want to point out anything that we happen to mention, if it does happen in the movie, is
Oops.
the same as us guessing, about anything.
oops.
What do you think? What do you think's going to happen in this in terms of? Do you have any ideas of what might be the most shocking thing, the most surprising thing?
I think a big part of the movie might even be the opening point of the movie, or at least close to the opening, based off the trailer of Kylo Ren and the ship about to blow up whatever ship. I think a big part of the movie is that the First Order is going to put out an assassination attempt on Princess Leia. I think that's going to be a big part of the movie. There's going to be an assassination attempt on Princess Leia, and then it's going to be like when they killed Archduke Ferdinand and started World War I.
Okay.
I think that's kind of how this is going to play out. Whether or not they'll succeed, I don't know. I don't think they'll kill Princess Leia off just because I feel like they might see that as disrespectful to Carrie Fisher. Like, I don't think they're going to shoot her and that's going to be...
Right.
So I think that's going to be a major plot point. There's a lot of theories about Luke or maybe even Rey turning to the dark side. I don't know. I think it could go either way. I think with Luke, they're getting into the area in the expanded universe known as the Gray Jedi, where they kind of walk in the middle, which would be really cool. I'm all for getting expanded universe material into the movies. I've been a big fan of the expanded universe for years, even before Disney bought Star Wars. The part I'm looking most forward to, though, is Finn fighting Captain Phasma.
Oh, yeah?
Finn was probably my favorite character in The Force Awakens. And that shot in the trailer where he and Phasma and the ship's on fire behind them and they're just ready to go. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Is there anything that you are, I don't want to say dreading, but is there anything you're like, man, I hope this doesn't happen?
I hope it doesn't end up being, essentially, like you said, a remake of Empire.
Right.
If it's a throwback to the tone, that's one thing.
Sure.
But if it's, I think it can still have the same tone, but still be its own thing.
Well, yeah, I think it can still have the the attributes of the second act of any story, where it's going to have to, the problem was presented, and now they're at their worst. One thing I saw, and again, a non-spoiler, but that this movie is so good in terms of it stands on its own, and you can also enjoy it with not seeing any Star Wars movies. The argument can be made. So,
I hope Rey does not end up being a Skywalker.
Yeah, it's
too obvious of a story point. It's too obvious to the point that I feel like it would cheapen just about everything.
Right.
So
yeah, we'll see. I had heard that there may be, and obviously unconfirmed, there may be a little more CGI in this one than the last one. Did you hear anything about that?
I didn't hear anything about that. I would believe it based off the trailer, but there's good CGI and there's bad CGI.
Right. Bad CGI being episode 1.
Episode 2 is way worse. Episode 2 is way worse.
When I think about Star Wars and CGI, I always just think of that Jawa falling off that dinosaur thing, and like the way it lands just reminded me of the effects in Golden Axe on Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
the character's very much not there, and
you got on one end you got Jabba the Hutt being CGI in New Hope. And then on the other end, you got Tom Hanks in the Polar Express.
Yeah, what the hell was that about anyway, as far as you take Jabba the Hutt and you take Yoda, and it was almost like they had to come up with them in CGI, but they weren't allowed to have any reference photos. It's like, what is happening here?
In the re-release of A New Hope, because originally Jabba wasn't in the original version of A New Hope.
Right.
Like, they filmed the scene, but it was deleted, and Jabba looked more like Hagrid from Harry Potter than he did the giant slug.
Yeah.
So in the re-release, they put the giant slug in, but he was CGI. In that shot, he looks all right.
Yeah.
At least from what I remember. He looks okay. And then you see him in Phantom Menace, and you're just like...
Well, see, and I'm just not even talking about, like, the realism of his... The idea that it literally exists there. Maybe that argument would be fair in terms of he doesn't look as real life in the second one as he does in the first one, but I'm talking about his actual physical features. Like, that's not Jabba the Hutt. It just doesn't look like him at all. And same thing with Yoda, and somebody said, well, he's younger, it's 30 years younger. He's like, yeah, he's also 700 years old.
Yeah,
no, I don't look different now than I do 3 weeks from now, unless I go to McDonald's more than usual.
I mean, Bernie Sanders is basically the closest thing to Yoda we got, and look at him from 30 years ago. He looks exactly the same.
No, that sounds about right.
Yeah, well, do you remember, like, the original version of Phantom Menace where Yoda was still a puppet and it looked, like, awful?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it looked nothing
well,
like...
that was the thing is they just... Why don't you use the original damn puppet?
Right. What? I mean, did it, like, get stolen? Did it melt? You can't make another one? Did you lose money? Like, what happened?
I don't know. But before we take it any further down that road... because we got just a couple minutes here left. What do you think, man? I mean, just overall, because I know I literally had a thing counting down on my phone for this movie, and I'm pretty sure you're the same way.
Yep.
I mean, is there any movie, any trilogy, is there anything that you look forward to more than this in the world of entertainment? This is it.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Day. That's what it's going to end up being. This is going to end up being Star Wars Day every year.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll think of something after we finish, but...
Right. Well, in the last minute or so we have here, real quick, if I throw it out there, what do you think about the whole Disney acquisition of Fox?
It's good and bad. It's awesome that Marvel finally has all of its characters back home, where they came from in the first place, but consider, it's also kind of bad when you consider the effects this will have on the movie industry as a whole.
Right.
Because now you're going to see all these other mergers that are just going to... it's the same thing when you have companies like Comcast trying to merge with AT&T. That's what you're going to get.
Right.
Too much consolidation.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably argue the idea that when you're talking about entertainment, we're going to still benefit.
Right.
But, definitely from probably an economic standpoint. But I don't. Movies make enough money, so I don't really care. All right, everybody. Well, hey, we really appreciate you sticking it out, listening to this little 15-minute sidebar podcast. The brand new Star Wars movie, it comes out tonight, Last Jedi. We're going to be catching it tonight, and then by tomorrow morning you can check out Donnie's review of the film, spoiler-free review at first. I'm sure you'll come back with one that's not avoiding spoilers. But that's it. The YouTube channel's Don John, DonJohn. Check him out, facebook.com/DonJohn or Twitter @DonJohn1991. And we want to thank everybody for joining us on the podcast. We will see you next time around.